Slightly more than ground state, yes, that's why it was given to you. So let's quickly go through these problems. I'm assuming you would have attempted these problems at home, right? Not all of you, some of you would have attempted. All right. So sheet title, slightly more than ground state. Okay, so the first problem is about 7 distinct toys. These are 7 distinct toys and to be distributed amongst 3 children. We want to figure out the number of ways in which this could be done. Number of ways in which these 7 toys could be distributed to 3 children. Okay. So we go toy by toy. The first toy could be given to any one of the 3. The second toy could be given to any one of the 3. Third toy to any one of the 3. 7th toy to any one of the 3. So 3 to power 7 ways in which these toys could be delegated to the 3 children. Right? Okay. I'm assuming all of you had got this right independently as well. Am I right? A set contains 2n plus 1 elements. There is a set containing 2n plus 1 elements. That's the set A. Now, we want to be able to create subsets of this set. We want to be able to create subsets of this set which contain more than n elements, right? We want to be able to create subsets containing more than n elements. That means a subset with n plus 1 elements would be how much? How many subsets with n plus 1 elements? The number of ways in which you could select n plus 1 elements from 2n plus 1 available. The number of ways in which you could select n plus 1 elements from 2n plus 1 available would give you the number of subsets with n plus 1 elements. Similarly, number of subsets with n plus 2 elements is this. Number of subsets with n plus 3 elements going this way. Number of subsets with 2n plus 1 elements is this. Yes or no? So we essentially have to obtain this sum. This will give me the number of subsets. So if we had subsets of n plus 1 elements, then that would be these many in numbers. If we had subsets of n plus 2 elements, then these many in numbers. Subsets of n plus 3 elements, subsets of 2n plus 1 elements, these many in numbers. So this would give me the total number of subsets with more than n elements, right? So I need to essentially evaluate this sum S. I need to essentially evaluate this sum S. Clear? Now, go by this property. NCR is NCn minus R. Recall this property? This was discussed in the previous class. NCR is NCn minus R, right? So, this sum S could also have been written as, this is NCR. I can write this as NCn minus R. That means this C, this minus this. Yes or no? So which is like 2n plus 1 C n, NCn minus R. What would this be? 2n plus 1 C n minus 1. 2n plus 1 C n minus 2. Going this way up to 2n plus 1 C 0. Right? The term just prior to this would have been 2n plus 1 C 1 and so on and so forth. Yes or no? Right? Now what I do is I add them vertically. S plus S. Right? So 2S. And what I do is I go this way. I travel the sum this way. 2n plus 1 C0 plus 2n plus 1 C1 plus 2n plus 1 C2. Going this way. 2n plus 1 Cn. Then 2n plus 1 Cn plus 1 plus 2n plus 1 Cn plus 2 plus 2n plus 1 C 2n plus 1. So this is the path that I follow. Right? So then I end up getting 2n plus 1 C0 plus 2n plus 1 C1 plus 2n plus 1 C2 plus going this way 2n plus 1 C 2n plus 1. Yes or no? Right? Now again a result which was discussed in the previous class. PC0 plus PC1 plus PC2 plus PCP. Remember this result? What was this? 2 to the power P. Yes or no? Isn't it? I had given you a combinatorial proof of this result in the last class, right? So PC0 plus PC1 plus PC2 plus PCP is going to be 2 to the power P. So this is going to be, so all of this is 2S is 2 to the power P, which is 2 to the power 2n plus 1. Or S is going to be 2 to the power 2n. Yes or no? Got me? No? Shall we proceed then? Let's move to the next problem. Number 3. A is a set containing n elements, right? The set A is A1, A2, A3, An minus 1, An. N elements. Right? Now, a subset P of A is chosen. Right? P is a subset of A. Now, what I do is, after I select some elements for the subset A, I replenish the set A so that it's reduced to its original state. So that you know what I'm saying? Suppose P is formed out of A1 and A2. Right? So you might be tempted to believe, okay, I have taken away A1 and A2 to constitute P. So now the set A doesn't have A1, A2. No. What I do is, I replenish the set A by restoring its original status, giving it back A1 and A2 from somewhere. Right? This is what I mean. So a set P is formed, a subset P is formed from A, and A is subsequently restored to its original state. Clear? Now, what is next done is, a subset Q of A is again chosen, right? Now from this original set A, a subset Q is chosen. Another subset of A. So, P and Q are formed out of the same set A, right? You know what I'm saying? Because A is restored to its original state by replenishing lost elements. Clear? Now, what we want to do is, we want to find in how many ways can we select P and Q such that the number of elements common to P and Q is exactly 2. P intersection Q contains exactly two elements. In how many ways can we choose P and Q? The question is, in how many ways can we create subsets P and Q such that P and Q have exactly two elements in common? You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now, in our attempt to constitute P and Q with two common elements, so we'll first select the two common elements which would be delegated to P and Q, right? So first of all, the two common elements could be selected in NC two ways. Yes or no? There are two events. The first event is select the two common elements that belong to both A and B, which can be done in NC two ways. N elements, the two common elements assigned to both A and B can be selected in NC two ways. Yes or no? Right? Now, after these two elements, the second event would be, how many elements remain? N minus 2 elements. Now, I will have to find a way of delegating those N minus 2 elements to P and Q in a manner that this distribution of the remaining N minus 2 elements must be such that none of these elements should belong to both P and Q at all, or to neither. So how many elements remain? The elements that remain now are, let's say B1, B2, B n minus 2. N minus 2 elements remain from this set. Designate them as these, right? Now, so the two common elements have been delegated to P and Q. Now we will have to find a way of dealing with the rest of the elements, right? For example, B1. In how many ways can I deal with B1? Three ways essentially. It can either belong to P or to Q or to neither, right? There are three ways of dealing with B1, and there are three ways of dealing with B2, and there are three ways of dealing with B n minus 2. That means the number of ways of dealing with the rest of the elements is 3 to the power n minus 2. Right? So then the two events are, first select the two common elements and then deal with the rest of the elements. The number of ways in which we can deal with the rest of the elements is 3 to the power n minus 2. Yes or no? No? Didn't understand this? The two common elements selected in NC two ways, and they are given to P and Q. Right? These are the remaining elements. We will have to learn to deal with these elements now. We will have to figure out in how many ways we can deal with the rest of the elements. Right? So in our constitution of sets P and Q, two events. Event number 1. Select the two common elements for P and Q. You have done that. Now, the rest of the elements, how many are these in numbers? N minus 2. So then the rest of the elements, if I take any one of the remaining elements, say for example B1, what are the things I can do with B1? Either it will belong to P or to Q or to neither. Because now none of these remaining elements can go to both P and Q. Otherwise the number of common elements will become more than 2, which should not happen, right? So the number of ways of dealing with B1 subsequent to having done this is 3. Number of ways of dealing with B2, 3. Number of ways of dealing with B3, 3. Number of ways of dealing with Bn minus 2, 3. So that makes it 3 to the power n minus 2 ways of dealing with the rest of the elements towards constitution of sets P and Q. So it's going to be NC2, two common elements selected, and dealing with the rest of the elements, which is 3 to the power n minus 2. This will give me the number of ways in which subsets P and Q could be formed with exactly two common elements between P and Q. Is that fair enough? Problem number 4. The number of ways in which we can select 4 numbers from 1 to 30. See, there are numbers from 1 to 30, and we want to select 4 of these numbers, right? And this selection should be such that no 4 consecutive numbers should be there in this selection. We don't want 4 consecutive numbers to be present in this selection of 4 numbers, right? The question is, in how many ways can I do so? So first of all, what is the total number of ways in which 4 elements could be selected? 30C4. Now let me find the number of ways in which 4 are consecutive. The 4 selected are consecutive. Let me find out the number of ways in which the 4 selected are consecutive. So one way to select consecutive 4 numbers is 1, 2, 3, 4. The other way to select 4 consecutive numbers is 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm listing out all possibilities of 4 consecutive numbers. How many are these? 27 in numbers. So in how many ways can I select 4 consecutive numbers? 27 ways. See, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is the 27th way, right? So there are 27 ways of, so this 30C4 contains 27 cases in which 4 are consecutive. Therefore, the remaining must be such that no 4 will be consecutive in the remaining selection. Yes or no? Right? So from 30C4, which is the total, I remove the 27 cases in which 4 are consecutive, then the remaining must be the cases in which no 4 are consecutive. Clear? So this would be 30C4 minus 27, whatever it turns out to be. Clear? N is such that NC4, NC5 and NC6 are in AP. That means what? 2 times NC5 must be NC4 plus NC6. This is what it means. When you simplify this, you will get a quadratic in N. You will get a, I hope all of you have done this problem independently as well. Quadratic in N, and you will get 2 values of N. What are the 2 values of N that you have got?
14 and 7.
Okay, so this will give you N equal to 14 and N equal to 7. I am not solving this for you. You should be able to do this. Simplify this, get a quadratic in N and solve for N. N equal to 14 and N equal to 7 would be the 2 values of N. Okay. Let's look at problem 6. So far so good, right? No issues with this. Number 6. Alpha is given equal to MC2. We want to find the value of alpha C2. Alpha is given as MC2. We want to find the value of alpha C2. Clear? Now, MC2 is what? M factorial by M minus 2 factorial by 2 factorial, right? Which is M into M minus 1 by 2. Yes or no? Right? That's alpha. Now, alpha C2 is similarly going to be alpha into alpha minus 1 by 2. Right? Where alpha I can plug in as M into M minus 1 by 2. This. This. See, this m square minus m minus 2 is m plus 1 into m minus 2. So just rearrange terms, right? Which I could further write as, see, if I write m minus 3 factorial here and m minus 3 factorial there. Then what would this be? M plus 1 into m minus 1 into m minus 2 into m minus 3 into m minus 4 into m minus 5 up to 1. What's the numerator? M plus 1 factorial is the numerator. Yes or no? The numerator is m plus 1 factorial. Clear? No? Now, m. Right. That's the m plus 1 factorial. For the numerator, m plus 1 into m minus 1 into m minus 2 into m minus 3 into m minus 4 up to 1. Right? Now, this m minus 3 factorial I could have written as m plus 1 minus 4 factorial. Right? So, n factorial by n minus r factorial. See, this is n factorial by n minus r factorial. So, what I do is, I force a 4 factorial here. Right? But there is 8 here and this has become 24. So, I balance it with a 3 here so that it can be reduced to the original state 8. Right? And this then is n factorial by n minus r factorial by r factorial. So, this is going to be m plus 1 c4. This is going to be m plus 1 c4. Yes or no? So, this is going to be 3 into m plus 1 c4. Clear? Which part? From here to here? Yes. See, the numerator m plus 1 into m minus 1. Now, m minus 3 factorial is what? M minus 3 into m minus 4 into m minus 5, 3 to 1. So, what is this? 1 to m plus 1, which is m plus 1 factorial. That's the numerator. And this m minus 3 factorial, right? I hope you understand. I have multiplied numerator, denominator with m minus. And this m minus 3 factorial I can write as m plus 1 minus 4 factorial. Right? Because if this is n factorial, I wanted to write this as n minus some r factorial. That's why I chose to write this as m plus 1 minus 4 factorial. So, it's n factorial by n minus r factorial. So, I force a r factorial here. And to make it 8, I multiply by 3. Right? So, this is n factorial by n minus r factorial by r factorial, which is ncr. So, m plus 1 c4 into 3 is what? Clear? That's the value of this expression. Okay. So, in the next problem, there are n white and n black balls marked 1 to n. If they are marked 1 to n means they are different. N different white balls, n different black balls. This is what it means, right? So, now we want to find the number of ways in which these balls could be arranged in a row so that neighboring balls are of different colors. You won't have 2 white balls or 2 black balls coming together. Do you understand the problem? Right? So, which means what? We could have had, say, 2 possible cases for this. The row could start with a white ball or it could start with a black ball, right? Say, it starts with a white ball. These are the white balls, right? So, first think of arranging these white balls. Think of arranging these white balls, permuting them. In how many ways can you do that? N factorial. So, first permute the white balls in n factorial ways. So, I am trying to find all those cases in which the sequence starts with a white ball. The sequence starts with a white ball. Okay. Now, the black balls, these are eligible locations for the black balls. The black balls can only be placed where I show you an arrow, right? These are the places where the black balls could be placed. This is a sequence starting with a white ball, right? So, if the black balls are placed in these spaces, how many spaces are these? N spaces in which you want to place n black balls. In how many ways can you permute n black balls in n spaces? N factorial ways. So first permute the white balls in n factorial ways, and in the n spaces permute the n black balls in n factorial ways. So that makes it how much? N factorial whole squared. So this gives me a sequence that starts with a white ball, and the number of ways in which this could be done is n factorial whole squared. Are you confused? I can explain again if you are lost. I'll explain again. Okay, so there will be two things that I'll be talking of. One, starting with a white ball. Right? So these are the white balls and these are locations for the black balls. Right? So two events. First, place the white balls in these n spaces. In how many ways can you do that? N factorial ways. And then place these n black balls in these n spaces. In how many ways can you do that? N factorial. So total number of ways in which you could create a sequence starting with white ball with no two balls of the same color being adjacent is n factorial into n factorial is n factorial whole squared. So starting with a white ball, you'll have n factorial. Similarly, starting with a black ball, same number of cases, right? N factorial whole squared. So the total number of cases would be, it would be either this or this, because any event would be either starting with a white ball or starting with a black ball. So you would want to add them up. So n factorial whole squared plus n factorial whole squared, that makes it 2 into n factorial whole squared. Got it? The number of ways of dividing 2n people into n couples, right? There are 2n people. These are the 2n people. And you want to find in how many ways can we create n couples out of them? Gender independent. Otherwise the problem will get complex. Okay. Now let me say I do the following. I create the couples for a march past. I build order in the whole creation. I build order. I create n couples that are going to do march past 15th August Red Road. Okay. Which means I create slots for these couples first. Although that would have to be, that extra count of creating order would have to be suppressed later on, because you know when you're creating couples, you're actually not creating couples for a march past. So if you create them for a march past, then you are creating an additional count which you want to suppress at a later instant of time. You know what I'm saying? So I create these slots for the n couples. First couple placed in this slot, second couple placed in this slot, third couple placed in this slot, the nth couple placed in this slot. Right? Now I fill up these slots with couples. I fill up these slots with couples. The moment I fill up these slots with couples, then I'm giving importance to the order of selection of those couples, right? Filling up spaces, like I told you, cardinal rule is will always create an order. So I'm filling up spaces. Never mind, let me fill up spaces. If I have created a selection in which I have built order of n things, then if I want to suppress that order, if it's just, then I divide by n factorial, then the order will get suppressed. You know what I'm saying? Okay, forget everything. For the time being, let's fill up these spaces with n couples, right? And like I said, filling up these n spaces with n couples would build order in the selection. which I would have to suppress when I am about to finish the problem. But first of all, the first space would be filled up in how many ways? I have to select one couple from 2n available. From 2n people, I need to select 2 people for the first slot. Right? And then, how many people remain? From which I need to select 2 more people. And how many remain? C2. One before this. There are 4 people left, from which I need to select 2. And at the end, there are 2 from which I need to select 2. Right? These are the number of ways in which I can fill up these spaces. A couple selected here, a couple selected for this space, a couple selected for this space. So these many pairs I could select from 2n people. These many pairs I can select from 2n people with the objective of causing them to march past. Right? But there is order in this mode. There is order in this mode of counting. So, do you realize, to suppress the order I divide by n factorial? To suppress the order I divide by n factorial? Okay, forget it. Say, the given problem, in how many ways can I select n pairs? Say that's x. Number of ways in which I can select n pairs, say that is x. I've selected n pairs from 2n people. So first I have made a selection. Now what I do is, after I have selected these n pairs, I arrange them in all possible ways. So each of these x selections can be permuted in n factorial ways. So x selections, the total number of ways in which they could be permuted is x into n factorial, and that must be equal to this. Yes or no? That must be the number of ways in which n couples could be selected with respect for order. This is the n pairs with respect for order. Yes or no? Right? Are you lost? So x would be what? This divided by n factorial? Clear? Makes sense to you? So the required would be this divided by n factorial. Got it? See, if you have made a selection of n things in which you have built order, if you have made a selection of n things in which you have built an order, right? But you want to suppress that order, then you divide by n factorial. If you have just made a selection without order and now you want to build order in it, then you multiply by n factorial. Isn't it? Clear? Okay.
Select first person in 2n minus 2n ways. You select and then for the other guy we have 2n minus 1 ways. We have 2n into 2n minus 1 plus 2n minus
plus.
Then we select the second person. Like we have remove those 2 persons, and then we select like P3. Or we select one person. We can do that in 2n ways.
No, but there is a problem. Now you can't select P3 because in that 2n minus 1 ways you have accommodated P3 also. So there will be an overlap, isn't it? No, that will be wrong. Because in that...
Like we have 2n people.
I
can select first person in 2n. I selected it. And then that person is gone.
You're not selecting a person. You have to select... Now a pair for that person.
I pick
Huh? Okay, I'll tell you, just formulate it properly before we discuss it. You formulate it properly, write it down so that you're also able to explain it to me better. Right? Okay, number 9. There are 10 students, A1, A2, A3, A10. Now we want to rank these students. We want to rank these students such that A1 is always above A2. We want to rank these students. We want to assign ranks to these students in a manner that A1 is ranked higher than A2. Not just one rank higher. It could be any number of ranks higher than A2. Clear? So very simple. See. First of all, the best way to do counting is to reduce to a simple state for yourself. Don't complicate matters. You will have to sound simple, look simple, behave simple. You'll simply count. Okay. So, first of all, the number of ways in which they can be ranked is how many? 10 factorial, isn't it? And why would you not think that in half of these cases A1 would be above A2, in the remaining half A2 will be above A1? Yes or no? Is it not? So half of 10 factorial. There are 10 factorial ways in which you can rank them. In half of these cases A1 would be above A2, in the remaining half A2 will be above A1. Why would one not want to believe this? You know what I'm saying, Ayush? There are 10 factorial ways in which we could rank them. In half of these cases, half of these 10 factorial, A1 would be ranked higher. In the remaining half, A2 would be higher. Yes or no? Than A1. So half of 10 factorial, yeah? Is it not? Right? Huh? Can you find 10 factorial cases in which A1 is above A2 in all? Can you do that? Please give him some warmth. I'm saying brotherly warmth. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if I ask Siddhant to give him warmth, God knows. Huh.
We can do one more. We can select two spaces from those 10 and in 10 C2 base for A1 and A2, and we can arrange the remaining 8 in 8 factorial.
Yes. 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 Yes, you're right. We could do that. Number 10. There are P positive and P plus N negative signs. P positive signs and N negative signs, where N is given to be not more than P plus 1. We want to arrange these P positive and N negative signs in a row so that no two negative signs are together. No two negative signs are together. Now the idea is still the same. What we do is, we first take the P positive signs. The P positive signs. These are the P positive signs. In how many ways can I arrange them? Huh? Just one way, dude. Just one way. Like I told you, don't get obsessed with the learning that has come to you. Go back to ground state. There is only one way, isn't it? The P positive. Yes. Yes, but it will still require only ground state. So there is only one way I can arrange these p positive signs because they are identical, right? Now, the eligible locations for the negative signs are these. These are eligible locations for the n negative signs. Yes or no? These are eligible locations for the n negative signs given the constraint of the problem. That means no two negative signs could be together. Now, how many spaces are these? P plus 1 spaces, isn't it? These are P plus 1 arrows. Is it not? These are P plus 1 arrows. These are P plus 1 arrows. And in these P plus 1 arrows, the negative signs would have to get accommodated. How many of these P plus 1 signs would you select? N. Because there are, right? How many of these P plus 1 arrows would you select? N. So that the n negative signs could be accommodated there. In how many ways can the n negative signs be selected from these? P plus 1 Cn ways. So the required number is going to be P plus 1 Cn. Is it okay or confusing? I'll explain one more time. See, what is it that we are trying to do here? There are P positive signs and n negative signs where n does not exceed P plus 1. Right? We want to arrange these signs in a manner. Hello? We want to arrange these signs in a manner that no two negative signs be together. So we forget the negative signs to begin with. We look at just the positive signs, the P positive signs. There is only one way I can arrange these P positive signs because they are identical. Now the negative signs would have to be placed where these arrows are, because if you place the negative signs wherever you find these arrows, then no two negative signs would come together, right? So these are legal locations for placement of the negative signs, right? So now, how many negative signs are there? N negative signs. How many eligible locations for the negative signs? P plus 1. So from P plus 1 eligible locations, you want to select how many locations? N locations. In how many ways can you do that? P plus 1 Cn ways. No, I'm only selecting the locations. See, these are locations. So there are two things that I do. I first select the locations. How many locations are there? P plus 1. And how many locations do I need to select? N. So P plus 1 Cn locations I have selected. I can do that. I can select n locations in P plus 1 Cn ways. Now I go to my bag, I pick out the negative signs, and then there is only one way I can place the negative signs, isn't it? So this is my selection of the locations where the negative signs will get accommodated, which I can do in P plus 1 Cn ways, and then I just dump the negative signs in these places, which is only one way. So this into 1.
If instead of negative signs we had something which was not identical, then it would be P.
Yes, then no. Then after selecting, you do a n factorial. Isn't it? Which is what it is going to be. Let's proceed then. Did I discuss the number of factors of a composite number? How many factors a composite number has? Alpha 1 plus 1 into alpha 2 plus 1 into, right? See, if you recall, if n is a composite number expressed in terms of products of powers of primes, p1 to power alpha 1 into p2 to power alpha 2, pk to power alpha k, then the number of factors of n, alpha 1 plus 1 into alpha 2 plus 1 into alpha k plus 1 is the number of factors of n, right, given by this, which includes the number n and it includes the number 1. It includes 1 and these many factors exist. Clear? So the next problem, which is number 11. the primes are a number n is given by a to power n, b, c, etc. Total number of numbers, total number of primes a, b, c, etc. are given to be m plus 1 distinct primes. So this is 1 prime and there are m more primes. Such is n, right? And I want to find the number of factors of n. So the number of factors of n is going to be alpha 1 is n, so it's going to be n plus 1. Alpha 2 is 1, so it's going to be into 2. Alpha 3 is 1 into 2. How many times? M times. So that makes it n plus 1 into 2 to the power m. That's the number of factors of n. Pretty simple, right? Number 12. A box contains 2 white, 3 black and 4 red balls. 2 white, 3 black and 4 red balls. Right? We want to select 3 balls from the box. We want to select 3 balls from the box such that there is at least 1 black ball to be always included. We want to make a selection of 3 balls so as to always include at least 1 black ball, right? Okay. So first of all, if there is no condition imposed, how many balls are there in all? 9. How many do you want to select? 3. In how many ways can you do that? 9C3. This is the total number of ways in which 3 balls could be selected from 9 available, right? From 9 balls, you could select 3 balls in a total 9C3 ways. Clear? Now, amongst these 9C3, there would be cases in which no black ball is selected. There would be cases in which there would be 1 black ball. There would be cases in which there are 2 black balls. There would be cases in which there are all 3 black balls, right? So, now let me find the number of cases in which there are no black balls. No black balls. So, how many balls are, if I have to exclude the black balls, then how many 6 balls are there? And how many do I want to select? 3. So the number of cases in which there are no black balls is going to be 6C3. These are the total number of cases. From this, I remove those cases in which there are no black balls. I'll get the cases in which there would be at least 1 black ball. So the required number is going to be is 9C3 minus 6C3. Why?
Like we keep 1 black ball and dump this. Then you have to select 2 balls from the remaining 8 balls. So that can be done in 8C2 ways.
Okay.
So that should be the answer.
Could be. Could be. Yes. Yes. Yes, 8C2 is fine. Acceptable. Absolutely. Absolutely. 8C2 will turn out to be the same as this number. I'll tell you 8C2 will be the same as this number. Huh? 8C2 is fine. Okay, let's look at the next problem. Clear? Your attention, please. No. No, 1 is already there. So at least this will include at least that. And from the remaining 8, you want to select 2, in which, one or more black balls could have got included in the 8C2, which is fine. Hmm? Hmm? Three times that. Three times, because the first ball could be selected in 3 ways. Yeah, the first ball could be selected in 3 ways. You're right. Right, let's look at number 13. Let's look at, can I have your attention please? So the sides, 9C3 minus minus 6C3. Yes, this will not turn out to be 8C2. Okay, let me come back to that. Oops. The sides AB, BC and CA of a triangle have 3, 4 and 5 points on them. We want to constitute triangles from these points as vertices. How many triangles could be constituted? Okay. How many triangles could be constituted? First of all, one way to constitute a triangle is one point from each side. One point from each side. So, 3 ways of selecting the first point from this side. The second point could be selected in any one of the 4 ways. The third point could be selected in any one of the 5 ways. That makes it 60 triangles with 1 point from each side. 2. 2 points from one side and 1 from any of the remaining 2. Right? 2 points from one side and 1 from any one of the remaining 2. Okay. So suppose 2 points are selected from this side, which you can do in 3C2 ways. Right? And 1 point from any one of the remaining 4 plus 5, 9. 9 ways the second point could be selected. See, 2 points selected from this side, and the third point could be selected from any one of these 9 points, 5 plus 4. So these many triangles with 2 points selected from this side, or 2 points selected from this side, 4C2, and the third point selected from any one of these 5 plus 3, 8 points. From these 5 points, from these 5 points I select 2. I can do so in 5C2 ways. Right? And then there are 3 and 4, 7 points to be selected from the remaining. 1 point to be selected from any one of the 7 remaining. So this plus this, whatever this turns out to be, this plus this will give me the total number of triangles. Yes or no? Clear? Whatever this turns out to be. I don't know, whatever. Have you done this calculation? 48 10, 70. This is 70. This is 27. And this is 48. 70, 118, and 27. 145 and 60, 205. 145 and 60, 205.
You would select any of key points from the 12 points and then subtract the triangles which would have been formed by the collinear points.
Yes, and that's going to be pretty horrendous to do. Right? Yes, you could have done that. That would be a lot more complicated in terms of computation, but yes, nothing wrong with that. The results of 21 football matches, right? So the next problem is about 21 football matches. (21 football matches designated F1, F2, F3, F21). Three possibilities for a match: win, lose, or draw. Right? The fourth one not included. It could have been abandoned. So win, loss, or draw. These are the three consequences listed out for each of the matches. And for each match, we want to make a prediction. And predictions for all matches put together would be a forecast. The complete set of predictions for all matches put together is going to be a forecast. Now what we want to do is, we want to make forecasts with exactly 18 correct results. We want to make forecasts with exactly 18. See, there are 21 results that we have to predict. Right? And we want exactly 18 results to be predicted correctly. In how many ways can we do that? So, first of all, you want to select those 18 matches that would be forecast correctly. How many matches are there in all? 21. And you want to select 18 which would be predicted correctly. Right? In how many ways can you do that? 21C18. 21C18. Now, there are 3 matches remaining. There are 3 matches. So now, a forecast would mean not just predicting these 18, but also learning how to deal with the remaining 3. Right? So in each of one of these 21C18 cases, this is the 3 matches designated M1, M2, M3 would have to be incorrectly predicted, right? I've selected 18 matches that have been predicted correctly. That's event 1. And there are 3 matches remaining and they are predicted incorrectly. Right? Now, for each match there are 3 outcomes: win, loss, or draw. Right? Of which 1 is correct and 2 are wrong. So every match can be incorrectly predicted in 2 ways. It can be correctly predicted in 1 way, but can be incorrectly predicted in 2 ways. Right? So match 1 can be incorrectly predicted in 2 ways. And match 2 can be incorrectly predicted in 2 ways. And match 3 can be incorrectly predicted in 2 ways. So that makes it 21C18 into 2 cubed. These would be the number of different forecasts containing exactly 18 correct results. Exactly 18 correct results. Yes or no?